Story 1. What will get upvoted versus downvoted? I don't mean the typical Minecraft good Fortnite bad stuff. If I go to a community, heart in hand, asking for advice or help, I get downvoted to hell. But if I make a stupid comment somewhere, I get upvotes for days. Story 2. Often objectively incorrect information gets upvoted, and even if it is corrected, the correction does not get a quarter of the attention. People speak with authority, and if it sounds plausible, people buy into it. I have fallen into this trap myself. I should clarify. I am not referring to matters of opinion or preference, questions that are not answered definitively, cases with multiple valid answers, technicalities, or politics. I am referring to facts that are either true or false and are established without ambiguity or bias. One mistake I frequently encounter is people mixing up the definitions of right to work and at-will employment as these phrases pertain to labor in the United States. This is not about opinions, state variations, political platforms, or comparisons to other countries. The problem is that the definitions are routinely mixed up. I understand that these are vague terms and the name of one can intuitively seem to fit the other. Still, this mix-up can appear in an authoritative, highly upvoted post, and then many people adopt the incorrect understanding while the correction is buried or comes too late to matter. The worst consequence is that some people who learned the wrong thing will propagate that mistaken knowledge, not deliberately, but because they learned it incorrectly and trusted the source without fact-checking. Story 3. After a while, I get tired of seeing all the sexually oriented AskReddit posts. Story 4. That fucking glitch with the inbox where it doesn't show the correct number of unread comments. Story 5. How they keep changing the ads to look increasingly like real posts. Story 6. When I arrive late to a post and see deleted everywhere, just delete it and stop making me curious about what the top comment said. Story 7. Sob story headlines and downright lazy pictures on the Reddit r/pics subreddit get upvoted like crazy. Post that content on Facebook. Story 8. On the mobile app, I cannot sort notifications by read or unread. Even when all notifications are read, the app still shows unread notifications. Story 9. I hate that so many Reddit users are obsessed with the site's mechanics. Many comedy pages and memes are just about upvotes, cake day, or not having enough karma to post in certain places. I do not find it clever or self-referential. It is simply boring. There is a picture of sad baby Yoda with the caption, "I have no karma, but I want cake day upvotes." Then 1,000 people shamelessly repost that meme across many different subreddits. Everything gets watered down by people addicted to karma. Story 10. When a post that could elicit interesting responses receives only puns, crude jokes, and pop culture references as the top comments. Story 11. I cannot think of the right word, but it is especially common in subreddits like "Am I the asshole?" and relationship advice. People there often think in a way that is completely unrealistic and unlike the real world. You can have your opinions, but almost everything I see is absurd because that is not how people in real life think and act. Story 12. The echo chamber mentality, moderators who go on power trips, and Reddit administrators' unwillingness to enforce their rules equally. Story 13. Everyone thinks they're an expert and far more intelligent than the average Reddit user. Story 14. The comment threads are still very disorganized. You can barely tell when a new comment starts. On Reddit, for goodness sake, please make the border lines bold so we can tell. Otherwise, it looks like one long list of comments. Story 15. Everyone seems to hold equally weighted opinions. If you are qualified to write about something but armchair internet experts think you are wrong or dislike it, you may as well not have contributed to the discussion. Story 16. It is a fact that one person's ignorance carries equal weight to another person's expertise. Story 17. I am a lawyer. I see many authoritative, highly upvoted posts that are incorrect. I also see a great deal of misinformation being repeated in the comments. In the past, I have tried to correct it, but people argue with me and call me an idiot. Story 18. I can't stand two things. First is fake humility, when someone says, "Here's something I made or did," and then adds, "It's not much, but," that drives me nuts. Second is people who say, "Came here to say that." Story 19. Everyone here has opinions about the concept of Reddit. I will chime in with what is wrong with the actual site. The search function is useless. Story 20. Reddit tends to promote extreme opinions by people with no real experience. It's great for memes and interesting tidbits, but an awful place to get advice or perspective on anything important. Story 21. I can predict the unfunny joke responses. He said worst, not best. They keep saying there was never a Last Airbender movie. Always the same, never funny. Story 22. When you block someone, they can still reply and see your activity. That makes no sense, in my opinion. Blocking should prevent the blocked person from seeing or replying to you, like other social platforms. Story 23. The fucking repetitive comments are always the same. I also see edited comments thanking someone for gold. Fuck you. There is so much I hate about threads on Reddit and about internet culture in general. Story 24. I really dislike how many one-uppers appear here. For example, in a thread about useless facts I said Tolkien died in 1973, 1 ring to rule them, 9 for mortal men doomed to die. Someone replied that this is not the order in which Tolkien wrote them. People always point out irrelevant details. I do not know whether they genuinely want to educate or simply want to feel smart, but I think it is the latter. Story 25. People here are uncreative with their jokes and repetitive. Try saying something funny instead of repeating "Did you break your arms?" or "I also choose this guy's wife." Edit. Thanks for the gold, kind strangers. You do not need to edit your comment to thank them for giving you an award. Story 26. Chain comments that continually circle jerk a certain reference until it makes me consider neck rope. Story 27. You cannot have an opinion that is contrary to the majority, not even in the subreddit unpopular opinion. Story 28. Sometimes I write a thoughtful comment with a different perspective, and it starts an interesting conversation. Most of the time my comment is either ignored, downvoted with no explanation, or I get called every insult you can think of for not being in sync with the Reddit hive mind. Story 29. Sock puppet accounts. I've talked about this before, but spammers really annoy me. These accounts are usually brand new or older accounts bought with little activity that repost comments and posts word for word to gain karma, so they can sell the accounts to spammers or use them themselves to spam. There is a more detailed guide about them. We find and ban dozens of these accounts every day on AskReddit, and I know the moderators of other subreddits have just as much trouble dealing with them. There is a subreddit called These Fucking Accounts dedicated to spotting these sock puppet accounts and calling them out. Then there are t-shirt spammers who post like regular users. Look at this cool shirt I got. And another of their accounts pretends to be unrelated and says, if anyone wants to buy it, I found it here. This isn't always limited to t-shirts. One person did this with a potato and later bragged about how much money he made because of Reddit. We see these accounts a lot in threads about gifts. A candle company, a face blanket company, and other novelty sellers likely owned by the same person. It really annoys me how they use these methods to trick people. Story 30. Well, I feel kind of sad when the good questions on this subreddit that I want to participate in already have about 3,000 comments, and I never get to join or share anything. Story 31. People are mean for sport. We have the opportunity to reach out to strangers. Yet we, as a community, undermine goodness and spit out misplaced anger. Story 32. I just wish people on Reddit would be nicer to each other. Laughing out loud. Story 33. I do not like the new design of the comments section for Android users. I do not want to see everyone's picture next to their username, nor do I like the voting buttons on the left side of the screen. Story 34. 2 Redditors said beat me to it. Overused and annoying. Story 35. The number of people who are simply nasty and enjoy trolling seems to be increasing. I know I will sound like a boomer, but I remember a time when Reddit users were not always so hostile to one another. Story 36. The Reddit hive mind has accepted certain facts and situations as completely unquestionable. Many of these facts are exaggerations, based on questionable sources or simply wrong. Story 37. Fantastic. High-quality content is deleted regularly across the website because the original poster forgot to tag their post as humor or they put 2 spubbies in their post instead of 1. Posts that are incorrect but receive thousands of upvotes and are promoted to the front page are especially frustrating when they are reposted multiple times and repeatedly receive thousands of upvotes while remaining completely wrong and misleading. Story 38. This is a problem with the internet in general, and Reddit is a core offender in consolidating and amplifying fringe political beliefs. Before the internet, a person with a fringe 1 in 100 political belief would be forced to confront that almost no one agreed with them. When they expressed their beliefs in person, there was only a 1% chance the person they were speaking to would agree, which gave them the best chance to reconsider. With the internet, especially sites dedicated to custom political communities like Reddit, these people can congregate and convince themselves they hold mainstream beliefs. They can also make others think those beliefs are more widespread than they are. With a population of 320 million in the United States, a 1% fringe belief can amount to up to 3,200,000 people concentrated in one place. Social media lets us curate feeds so we no longer see opposing views, creating groups of millions who hear only themselves. These fringe groups begin to think they are the people and that their views are the majority. This can snowball. Fringe communities that are effective at brigading other communities create a false sense of size and scope, attracting others to their cause. The problem appears on both sides of the political aisle. There are comparatively few Ku Klux Klan members in real life. While Reddit has tried, imperfectly, to expel the far-right fringe, web presences like Stormfront have allowed them to network and grow, contributing to resurgences in places like Charlottesville. Similarly, there are comparatively few actual Marxists in real life, but judging by Reddit representation, you might think they are a major faction of the Democratic Party. This amplification also causes demonization across the aisle. While we are usually sheltered by our online echo chambers, occasionally these fringe messages bleed through, and we start to think that Republicans are mostly Ku Klux Klan members or that Democrats are mostly Marxists. I do not know what the solution is. I do not know if there is one. Story 39. How Reddit users mock other social media platforms such as Facebook and Instagram. Story 40. There is a burn-at-the-stake mentality when someone misunderstands something and expresses an opinion. Even after apologizing and learning, people attack the original misunderstood comment, never read what happened afterward, and downvote. The same happens with things that are trendy and well-known in the USA but unknown elsewhere. Responses can be harshly criticized and labeled as stupid. Story 41. How hateful it can be to say things. Instagram is only bad because it reposts memes, and that is about 2% of the app. Emojis have a place, and I might get downvoted to hell for that. Story 42. Hardly anybody can tell when you have used sarcasm, yet everybody gets annoyed if you use the sarcasm tag. Story 43. Those losers who spend their whole lives on Reddit and have millions of karma. Story 44. At around 3,000 upvotes, random users almost always try to correct you or start a semantic argument by picking apart one out-of-context syllable. I don't know what it is, but it happens every time. Story 45. When someone tells a story and wants to keep a person anonymous, they say, "Let us call him James." Why not just say James? It really gets on my nerves. Story 46. 1. How the R-Movies subreddit seems to focus on the same dozen or so movies that all came out in the last 20 years. For example, Blade Runner 2049 is an underrated gem. 2. How many subreddits have a weird fetish for Elon Musk? 3. How people mix opinion and fact. There is a lot of hate in the R-Television subreddit for a new streaming series based on a long-standing franchise. Users there act as if no one could possibly like it, despite the fact that many users on other subreddits do and that the series has been critically successful. User ratings on other sites, such as Rotten Tomatoes and the Internet Movie Database, are also pretty good. It is fine to dislike something, but that is subjective. Story 47. Forced jokes and puns used to farm karma. Reposts of item 1251342. Internet White Knights. Subreddit bubbles that avoid discussion and controversy. Accidentally posing as users just for attention. Story 48. I will be hated for saying this, but I dislike that using emojis is frowned upon. Story 49. People who start with the phrase "well" actually are compelled to prove you wrong, even when you have stated a widely accepted fact. They invent a 1 in a trillion exception and act as if they have demolished your entire argument. They are seeking validation by showing how smart and superior they are to everyone. Story 50. There is an overwhelming sense of entitlement. On Reddit, any company that does not cater to you personally is considered terrible. Any website that asks you to view the ads that keep it running is considered awful. And any studio or streaming service that asks you to pay for the content it created is called greedy and said to deserve piracy. Too many people on Reddit seem to think that any inconvenience is an outrageous attack on them and that they are justified in doing whatever they want. Story 51. Any and all bots, including humans who behave like them. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.